It's the positive vibes. It's the positive vibes for me. It's the positive vibes. It's the positive vibes for me. Yeah. I love this podcast.
Welcome back to the Positive Vibe Enthusiast. I'm your host, Tashi, and this is episode 2 of season 7. First off, I would like to apologize for the delay in this episode. I know that I had previously made an announcement for this episode to be out 10 days prior, so shame on me for that. Um, I have to admit, it was my birthday weekend, and it was a birthday weekend that I actually enjoyed. The weather was absolutely gorgeous. I probably would have been upset had I went out of town and found out how nice the weather was on my actual birthday weekend. And special shout out to everybody who called, text, DM'd, commented, whatever. I haven't made it over to Facebook yet. But any and everybody who wished me a happy birthday, it is greatly appreciated. And I thank you all for all the well wishes. And special thanks to those who showed up and showed out. Special thanks to Courtney. Girl, I thoroughly enjoyed my gift card. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And also the my gens. Shout out to Jenny Jenny D. I almost said her last name, but I don't want to bust her out. But shout out to Jenny D. She took me out, had an absolute blast. We ate at Nando's Peri Peri in Chicago. We ate at the Hyde Park location, and that was her first time in Hyde Park, and I'm sure she enjoyed herself, and that won't be her last. The chicken was phenomenal, and the lake was laking, and we just had a lot of fun. Also, my other Jennifer, JG, I definitely appreciate her as well. She took me out for ramen. OMG, it was so good. It was so good. I had like a sumo bowl, I think it was called. It had like dumplings in it, and it did have pork. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It had pork in it. So if you don't eat pork or you're not down with the swine, you cannot eat this. I don't usually eat a lot of pork, but bacon and now pork and ramen, I enjoy it. But yeah, that was my birthday weekend. Shout out to them both. I was telling Jennifer how I'm just so happy that she took time to be nice to me, because funny story on how her and I met long time ago in a past life. I was a waitress that was quickly promoted to bartender. And fun fact, I had absolute zero bartending experience, believe it or not. I had a ton of experience consuming said alcohol. But when it came to actually mixing and cultivating the cocktails, no, I had no background in that. Luckily, I met Jen, and she helped me really make some drinks. She also taught me how to be nice to the customers, because I was so focused on learning what was in the drinks. I was the person like, okay, if someone was asking me, "Oh, can you make me a Long Island?" I wanted to be sure that I knew all of the ingredients in it, and how much, and how do you shake it up, and do you put the ice? Like I was more so concerned with the logistics that my customer service had taken such a back seat, because I was really focusing on, okay, how do I do all these things? Because it was a shit ton of drinks that I had to remember back then. And it's funny how time goes on, and even hearing people who needs bartenders and flash forward like damn near 20 years later, you get paid a lot more than we did back then to do these bartending events. And these events are, you're only serving like three things. It's maybe a signature cocktail for the evening, uh, a beer, and a shot glass. So it's just funny how I had to know so much, making so less, but I was hustling for tips back then, versus if I wanted to jump in the field now and just do private events, I could charge whatever I want to charge, and literally serving beer and wine and maybe a signature drink or two. So it's just funny. it was a great time. I met a lot of cool people and lots and lots of lots of memories for sure. So shout out to the Gens and yeah, I had a really good birthday. Um, yeah, so that's that. And that is why I did not get this episode out on time. I am committed to doing better. Seriously, you guys, I really am. Because if we're not doing anything else but getting, if you're not doing anything else, you have to get better. So just bear with me on that one. Okay, so this episode honestly was going to be, or is going to be, all about the power of deciding now. And when we talk about deciding now, that could be on many things. It doesn't just have to be a major uh, life decision. It could be just as simple as, you know what, I had made a decision earlier today to make sure that I stopped at the grocery store to pick up these mustard seeds that I needed to finish off this chicken dish that I really, really wanted. And for whatever reason, my day progresses, and by the end of my day, I'm getting off of my job or whatever my errands I have for the day. I have lost the energy. I have completely lost the energy to go into the grocery store and pick up the mustard seeds that I had anticipated to grab to make the chicken dish that was eagerly awaiting. Like all my energy has been drained. And the power of deciding to still act on what you decided to do early in the day now instead of putting it off for tomorrow does a lot of things. It actually gets your body used to performing even when you quote unquote feel like you don't want to. And the more and more we fight against the urge of, I'm going to call it the urge of mediocrity, truthfully, because it's so easy. It's just so easy to sit down and not do something. It actually takes a lot of effort to stand up and take action on any and everything that you said you're going to do. So, one of the books that I had a pleasure of reading, and when I say reading, I do want to be crystal clear, it's audiobooks. I'm a person that is very on the go and I'm an audio learner. So I consume a lot of audiobooks. So one of the audiobooks that I have listened to and listened to more than once because I is The Four Agreements. The Four Agreements is a great book. And I think that if you find yourself in life where you feel like you're always getting into it with people, or you can't quite read the room, or you find yourself getting upset and angry most of the time. I guess it's under the personal development realm. That is a lot of the books or content of the books that I consume. A lot of personal development. I have been doing that for many, many, many years, in many different avenues too. But to stick back to the book, one of the four agreements is to be impeccable with your word. And I have noticed over time in many different avenues of my own life, whether it's professional, whether it's personal, being impeccable with your word will always, always, always set you apart from the rest. Not many people do it. Honestly, I think the majority of people don't. I think that people will say things and maybe have all the intentions in the world of completing or doing or executing what they said at the time that they're saying it. But for whatever reason, one way or another, they're not impeccable with their word. And this is something that pride myself on, being impeccable with my word. However, it is something you have to maintain and call yourself out when you're not being impeccable with your word. Example, me saying that this episode was going to be out on October 5th. Now, granted, it's not like I have a boss over my head that's like, oh, it's October 5th. This episode's not out. What are you doing? However, you shouldn't have to have that anyway. You should say what you mean and be impeccable with your word. So, with this episode being delayed, this was an excellent opportunity to not only talk about the power of deciding now, but also talk about being impeccable with your word. Because I talked about how it sets you apart, and real recognizes real. And when you are constantly executing things that you say, it gains you notoriety. Notoriety. Ugh, I can't say the word. It gains you notoriety. For whatever reason, I couldn't say that word right there. And when people see you as a person who is dependable, who says it like you mean it, you're a straight shooter, those qualities people look for, especially in leadership. I'm not quite sure if whoever's listening to this, if leadership is something that you want to get into, but if it is, the first way you can definitely break your way into a position of leadership is to become impeccable with your word. And sometimes you may fall short on being impeccable with your word. I decided to kick it and not be impeccable with my word for my birthday weekend. Not really, it's not an excuse. That's literally what I chose to do. But that's not something that I would want to make a habit. Absolutely not. And I know that because years and years and years of being impeccable with my word. So, also, when you make a habit of being impeccable with your word, for the moments that you aren't impeccable with your word, is not as devastating to other people. It's nothing worse than you're being a person that constantly makes promises and constantly breaks them. That's not an attractive quality to have, and I wouldn't recommend that for anyone who really wants to be taken seriously. Now, going back to saying that there could be times that where you're not going to be impeccable with your word. And those are the times where you being proactive can shine. So if I'm not being impeccable with my word, it's giving you an opportunity to is giving you an opportunity to be proactive. Proactive in the sense that, example, let's say on I got a phone call today. Today is Tuesday. I get a phone call today, and it is from a good friend of mine. And they're asking me if I would be so kind to pick them up from the airport on Friday at 6 p.m. I say, no problem. My day is open. I will pick you up. Don't worry about it. So as the week goes on, progresses, Wednesday, I get a call, which is, no, we're going to use Thursday. Thursday, I get a call. And they're like, oh my gosh, I really need you to be here at 6 p.m. Um, it's a more pressing matter because it's work related, and I'm no longer eligible or available, shall I say, to pick up my friend from the airport. Okay. Now, there's a choice I can make here. I can let my friend know, like, hey, um, I'm not gonna be able to do it. I'm actually kind of double booked. Or I can take it a step further and still be impeccable with my word, because I'm not exactly sure why my friend may have asked me for a ride from the airport to her hotel. It could be maybe my friend's, budget is tight. I'm not sure. But what I can do is I can make arrangements for a car to pick her up to take her where she needs to go. Now, of course, in this situation, I have the financial means to do that. But in the event you weren't able to, there still was enough time. As soon as I found out the information, I reached out to my friend to let them know that I could no longer take them to the airport. That gave plenty of opportunity for my friend to then make other arrangements, or, yeah, like I said, it gives her plenty of time to make other arrangements instead of just waiting to the last minute or simply not saying anything at all or being ghost. But we're not going to use that as a scenario, because that is a friend. This is a friend of mine, not somebody I don't know. But I would just make arrangements for someone to pick her up, since I was not able to. That's something that I could do to be accommodating and also keep the spirit of being impeccable with my word. So that's some of the benefits of being impeccable with your word. I can go on and on and on about being impeccable with your word, but I also want to touch base on and stay on topic of the power of deciding now. Making decisions is one of the most powerful ways to rebuild trust. And trust with yourself specifically is what I'm talking about. The more you make decisions and decisions in the now, you build self trust. You trust your decisions. You are trained to trust yourself. The more and more that you can turn your attention inward and really sit with yourself and sit with your feelings, see how you feel, listen to your thoughts. I always tell people take time to think about what you're thinking about because where your attention goes, the energy flows. It's I know people like to say like the podcast is the positive vibe enthusiast, and I know that we are in times we're currently living in times where things may not feel all that positive, and I totally get that. And one of the decisions, if I could encourage you or sway you to be, is making a conscious decision, not to just focus on being positive. No, focus on whatever it is that you want. And anything that contradicts or gets in the way of what you want, I want you to block it and ignore it. Okay, I'll say it one more time. If you are struggling with making decisions, know that each decision you make for yourself, especially in the now, right now, taking action, deciding now is going to help you build self-trust. That's the first thing I want to repeat. And the second thing I want to repeat is it's not just about being positive. If you can guide your attention to whatever it is that you want and anything that contradicts or get in the way of that, I need you to block and disregard it. It is important to really focus on what you want. And it's easy to do, especially if you are a person with a smartphone. Most of us have smartphones. Most of us have smartphones. I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this, you own a smartphone. And I would encourage you to take your phone and go through all your social platforms if you have them and check and see what your social platforms are programmed to. Is the algorithm feeding you more negative nonsense that is not conducive to the end goal that you want for your life? Or is the content of what you want, the environment you're in, maybe even the career, all of that? Let it be focused on that. Whatever it is that you're trying to make real in your, as the kids say, IRL, in real life, you need to focus on that. And every single aspect of your life should replace that. Put yourself in the rooms of the places that you want to be. Now, it could be, you know what, I want to have a long weekend at the Ritz Carlton and I would like to eat at the finest restaurant in Chicago and also do a little shopping on the Mag Mile. Okay, great. But let's say you can't, you feel like, oh, I can't afford that right now. Well, see, that's another thing too. If you feel like, oh, I can't afford things, I want you to change it to, ooh, how can I afford it? And let your brain work on that. Let that be where your brain focuses on. Anytime you say, oh, I can't afford that, I encourage you to think, oh, how can I afford that? Especially in these times where they're really pumping, there's real issues out there. I'm not saying ignore it. We do have ICE agents out there. We do have mass unemployments. We also um, are experiencing different wars, whether it's the war on drugs and also what's going on around the world. A lot of our brothers and sisters are overseas right now. just a lot of militarism. It's a lot going on. And I'm not saying completely ignore that. I'm just encouraging everyone to focus on what they want. Focus on the good. Focus on the one thing that made you smile today or made you chuckle. Focus on the last person you gave a hug. Focus on the last even positive thought or prayer you sent out to someone else, because prayers are positive. Positive and powerful. Yeah, they're positive. That's a positive frequency and is also a powerful one. So if you can take time to visualize what you want, keep that decision in that direction. Always, always, always take time to build that self-trust by making decisions in real time. I want to encourage everyone to choose faith over fear. Faith is so much greater than fear. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard what fear stands for, and that's false evidence appearing real. It's not real. I'm not sure if I rambled a bit on this episode. And if I did, just bear with me because, as you know, I am getting used to doing these podcasts more so solo dolo, uh, just so I can build the consistency again. I will definitely have guests on this year. The first episode was supposed to kick off with an actual guest, and she will be returning. Hopefully, maybe I can have her between these next two episodes come on so we can actually talk about what we wanted to talk about, because it's a subject that affects a lot of women and we have a lot of insight about it. And I think that it would be very beneficial to a lot of the women out there. So, anyway, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Positive Vibe Enthusiast. And remember, your energy creates your reality. So decide today and watch how the universe rearranges itself to meet you halfway. Until next time, stay grounded, stay grateful, and always keep the vibes high. Until next time, peace.
It's the positive vibes. It's the positive vibes for me. It's the positive vibes. It's the positive vibes for me. Yeah. I love this podcast.